had a black dog. His name was Depression. Whenever the black dog made an appearance, I felt empty and life just seemed to slow down. He could surprise me with a visit for no reason or occasion. The black dog made me look and feel older than my years. When the rest of the world seemed to be enjoying life, I could only see it through the black dog. Activities that usually brought me pleasure suddenly ceased to. He liked to ruin my appetite. He chewed up my memory and my ability to concentrate. Doing anything or going anywhere with the black dog required superhuman strength. At social occasions, he'd sniff out what confidence I had and chase it away. My biggest fear was being found out. I worried that people would judge me. Because of the shame and stigma of the black dog, I was constantly worried that I'd be found out. So I invested vast amounts of energy into covering him up. Keeping up an emotional lie is exhausting. Black dog could make me think and say negative things. He could make me irritable and difficult to be around. He would take my love and bury my intimacy. He loved nothing more than to wake me up with highly repetitive and negative thinking. He also liked to remind me how exhausted I was going to be the next day. Having a black dog in your life isn't so much about feeling a bit down, sad or blue. At its worst, it's about being devoid of feeling altogether. As I got older, the black dog got bigger and he started hanging around all the time. I'd chase him off with whatever I thought might send him running. But more often than not, he'd come out on top. Going down became easier than getting up again. So I became rather good at self-medication, which never really helped. Eventually, I felt totally isolated from everything and everyone. The black dog had finally succeeded in hijacking my life. When you lose all joy in life, you can begin to question what the point of it is. Thankfully, this was the time that I sought professional help. This was my first step towards recovery and a major turning point in my life. I learned that it doesn't matter who you are, the black dog affects millions and millions of people. It is an equal opportunity mongrel. I also learned that there was no silver bullet or magic pill. Medication can help some, and others might need a different approach altogether. I also learned that being emotionally genuine and authentic to those who are close to you can be an absolute game changer. Most importantly, I learnt not to be afraid of the black dog, and I taught him a few new tricks of my own. The more tired and stressed you are, the louder he barks, so it's important to learn how to quiet your mind. It's been clinically proven that regular exercise can be as effective for treating mild to moderate depression as antidepressants, so go for a walk or a run and leave the mutt behind. Keep a mood journal. Getting your thoughts on paper can be cathartic and often insightful. Also keep track of the things that you have to be grateful for. The most important thing to remember is that no matter how bad it gets, if you take the right steps, talk to the right people, black dog days can and will pass. I wouldn't say that I'm grateful for the black dog, but he's been an incredible teacher. He forced me to reevaluate and simplify my life. I learnt that rather than running away from my problems, it's better to embrace them. The black dog may always be part of my life, but he'll never be the beast that he was. We have an understanding. I've learned through knowledge, patience, discipline and humour, the worst black dog can be made to heal. If you're in difficulty, never be afraid to ask for help. There is absolutely no shame in doing so. The only shame is missing out on life.
All right, that was a rather moving documentary, a short that deals with the issue of mental health and depression. It's been our conversation and it's our topic for this show. That being said, Jamie, we're joined on the set now by Daniel Smith. He is a young man, an individual who has been dealing with certain aspects of mental health on a personal level. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning.
First of all, I just want to say that I'm extremely grateful to you for coming here and talking to us about this very private in many instances and very sensitive topic. So we are really grateful for you to be here and to be so open with us and of course the wider Belizean public. What made you make this decision to come and have a conversation with us?
I'm grateful too for the opportunity to be able to speak out, and especially as a male, because it's something that it's been progressing, that the more I've matured and the more I've realized what I do have and the need not to be so silent or careful about it, that I can express more. And it was more with my partner.
Yeah.
It's that I found the courage to be more expressive, and it was in that relationship that I began to see what I was actually, what I actually had as issues.
And I know that you and Isani were chit-chatting a bit earlier, and I was just listening in. But could you tell us about when you started to recognize this state of being within yourself?
It's something where until you actually know that there's a name to what you have, it's just like feeling a cold chill and you're not exactly sure what it is. But I just knew from high school I was different, not specifically special. It's just that if some of my high school classmates were to see this, they would be like, oh, I always know something wrong with him. It's like I was that kind of person, like, oh, okay, that explains it. And they used to joke about it, that my personality was a little bit off. But to see I actually was the one who realized that I was depressed, I could call it that it was a mental issue, no. It was, the way how you could say it happened is that my mother was the person who was most concerned. She spent the most time with me. She works, I believe what gave her the insight is that she's someone who works at the hospital. And not only that, but in our family we've had issues with mental health. So I think that made her a little bit more aware and sensitive than your average parent. And she had the foresight with, I think it's about third form or fourth form, my performance was a little bit off because I tend to fluctuate.
Yeah.
The thing with me is that they classify certain people, they call it moodiness. But my moodiness was something that it was like constant.
It's erratic.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, and my grades went down, my level of interaction with people went really down. I would stay inside a lot. And one of the signs for me specifically is if you notice when a normal person walks, they have this sort of step or
Yeah.
I would walk and I would literally not move my arms. My upper body would be stiff.
Yeah.
Stiff. Have you ever seen someone who is on drugs? And yeah, my mother would joke and say, son, people are thinking about crack. They're thinking about drugs. And that's something where, like I said, a lot of people have asked me, they would say like, you walk like a zombie. You walk like, and like I said, she was the one who had the foresight and took me to the medical associates to get an assessment. And that did give me some sort of, both of us, some insight. Because another telltale sign for me specifically that you might see people do is I would tense in my body.
Yeah.
I would be like this, and it would just happen. And then it's something where the body is a precursor showing you what's going to, that I'm progressing in my level of discomfort and because I have both the anxiety and depression. And
when you went through the therapy, I'm assuming here that you spent countless hours opening up in terms of talking to someone, in this instance maybe a medical professional who would be able to listen to what some of your inner issues were, or as you said, you've suffered the anxiety aspect of it. What was that experience like? That entire process of learning what is wrong from within?
Unfortunately, my first experience at Medical Associates was not pleasing. It felt like the person had spent roughly about 30 minutes. I opened up, I explained some of the same things that I told you. My mother gave him her perspective of the things that I did, because like I said, a lot of it is that you're not aware of what you're doing is uncommon behavior for people to do. You just do it. And within the 30 minutes, this person said, okay, this is his diagnosis, and he prescribed valproic acid. He didn't give justification as to why, he didn't lead me into it. And the thing is with me, I don't know if it's people who have depression, anxiety, but I'm very cautious. I'm overly cautious. I tend to overthink things a lot. And you need to ease me. And I think that's something that when you're dealing with someone who has depression, anxiety, you need to ease them in and make them feel safe, and you create
because you'd be overwhelmed otherwise, correct?
Yes. So from that experience, that was, like I said, when I was about 16, 17, I'm 29 now. And it's only recently that I've actually found the type of validation and connection and that progression with someone. I've been able to open up and discover that, yes, I am depressed, because a lot of times people who are depressed, we negate our own selves, because I constantly find myself saying that I'm not depressed, I'm just making it up, nothing's wrong with me. But then I go bouts of not eating sometimes. I spend entire days just sitting down, not doing anything worthwhile.
We say just zoning out. Right?
Just zoning out. And the thing about that is, when I do that, I punish my own self internally for doing that. So to answer the question about the progression, it was something where when I began to realize how much the depression was affecting me, it's the first time I was able to let up, because I also tend to stuff down emotions and feelings. And I'm not sure if that's something that everyone with depression does, because you're so numb, you're so afraid of also expressing them, that when you do find someone who can validate it, it was like...
You're able to breathe and vent.
It's the first time when I've actually had random bouts of crying. I'm walking through the streets in Belmopan, because that's where the first person validated me. And we took the time, and when it came up, it was just, it was subconsciously, this deep depression, suppression of emotions, and I had to stop myself from crying in public, because especially as a male, I know that would have seemed extremely awkward. And I found it at the same time uncomfortable. I found it restrictive, because why can I not cry if the feeling is coming up, right? Because, like I said, it was something that just automatically came up.
Was this something, forgive me for asking a personal question.
It's okay.
Was this something that occurred within your household, within your family, as to why, in a sense, you were suppressing some of these emotions? Or were you encouraged as a young man to be able to express yourself? If you're happy, you express that feeling of happy and joy, etc.
It's like a combination of that usual battle between nature versus nurture. Like I said, in my family, I am unfortunately somewhat predisposed genetically to issues of
mental health.
Yes, but also what happens is that if you're in an abusive home, I'm not saying mine, or a dysfunctional home, as an example, if you keep repeating to someone that you will turn out like a pa, you will be nothing, you're stupid, the brain, especially developmentally for a child, if they keep hearing that, if they're in that environment, they are going to be depressed. And the thing is that in that seed that you planted is going to become something that it creates its own inertia. That person is going to keep those, and they're going to keep repeating that and reinstilling that in themselves. They're going to be their own engine for their own depression, their own demise. And I had both of those. I had the predisposition to having anxiety and depression and mood instability, and also that there was dysfunction in my home. And there are certain neighborhoods within Belize that it's just, there is a part of it that's environment, like I said, the nurture aspect.
Can you talk a little bit about your first experience and how, even despite that experience, how you were able to find validation in maybe other healthcare providers? Because I know that across Belize, the national understanding is that you're not good at hospital because you aren't taken care of. I've had an experience very recently. I went to the emergency room, and the nurse, as my sister is explaining what's happened to me, she's completely dismissive. She's like, yeah, that happens. And I felt so awful. I wasn't going through anything mental health related, but it's the understanding, it's known that healthcare in Belize, it's deplorable sometimes. The way that they treat you, the way that they handle you as a patient. You go there because you're not feeling well. You're not there because you want to hang out with the nurses or the doctors. So talk to us about that initial experience and how you were able to still move on and know that you have something that was different about you and that you'd still want to access medical services.
Like I said, that experience was, it sort of pushed me further back and kept me from really reaching out again. Yeah. Because yes, he was dismissive. Yeah. And it's something where I am very analytical. I'm very, and like I said, there are different kinds of people and different kinds of depression, but mine in particular is that I'm going to analyze you. Yeah. I'm going to study you. And if I feel that if you're supposed to be the person who's supposed to help me understand my own self, and in the 30 minutes I've analyzed you more than you've done me, then I'm not going to listen to anything, and that pushed me back. Especially men, we are very, we have this machismo, we have this, we're expected to be that we're self-sufficient. All right, bless you. So that put it that, okay, that's proof that I should use my own intellect, my own reasoning, because I can't depend on the system to help me out.
Some of us are able to, as you said, there's a sense of machismo that comes along with being a man. And when we are not able to either find that solution from within, or we're not able to seek or get the kind of help that we want. When I listen to you, you're saying that, for instance, you are in this room, you're seeking therapy from this individual, this professional, and the fact that the individual was dismissive of how you felt or what you were explaining, and during that short period of time you were able to learn more about him than he probably was learning about you based on your own admissions. I think part of what I understand, sometimes we seek help from other people and we find ourselves hitting a brick wall.
Yes.
Like we're not being able to break through, to be able to understand. Because sometimes with the interaction, you learn more about yourself just by interacting with someone or just by someone giving you that listening ear. But if someone is immediately curt or dismissive, then there really isn't much that you can get out of that particular session. That being said, I listen to you and I can easily point out that you're a well-spoken person. You're able to express yourself rather eloquently for someone.
That took me years.
Which I was just about to ask you. It's the first time I'm meeting you. You went into session when you were 16 years old, correct? When you're in third form. What has that journey been like in terms of going from someone that is completely repressive and keeps things within to now being able to have that sense of confidence where you can freely open up and speak the way you do?
I can't seem to stay quiet now. I used to be someone who was seen as, like I said, extremely shy, extremely quiet, extremely repressed. They thought I was going to become a Jesuit priest. I was Saint Daniel. And it hasn't been easy. I don't think it is for anyone, and it's been a series of, I would almost say, dumb luck. It's not like I was specifically pursuing it. Like I said, if it wasn't for my mother, I would never have gone. If it wasn't for me being with my partner and that intimate space, that's something that people don't tend to understand, is when you're in a relationship and it's real and it's safe and it's committed, that's when all the demons come out. Right? And I had bouts when I would come in from work and I would be frustrated and I would literally stand up and I would have 3-hour sermons with my partner. She's there falling asleep and I can't stay quiet because I'm expressing so much. And that's the thing with men, one of our primary source of emotional and intimate relation, because I can't get that with men. And I found as I grew up, I was often classed too in high school as being feminine. I'm an expressive male. I'm very, emotive, but I'm also very rational. And I require more from men than just, dog, get down on me.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, it's been difficult because the group of men that I've grown up with, because I went to SJC all boys school, and later on that I kept around me or tried to have as friends, their solution to my issues of depression, when you try to use your peers for express what you feel, their solution mainly is distraction.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing for men, is distraction. Sex, alcohol, cigarettes, weed, music, and the facade, the bravado.
Sometimes sports as well, and other forms of
Sports.
entertainment.
Right.
It's fleeting.
All right,
Yeah.
so it's been frustrating. And it's something where my young lady has branched out, because if similarly, her as a female too, she has found it difficult to get validation and connection for her issues of depression and things that she's been through from her own family and friends as well. So she had to branch out into a broader community through Facebook, through social media, which again, at the time when I was going through all of this Facebook and those stuff, all right, but it's been liberating.
Yeah.
But it's still that thing where I'm trying to figure out, am I really depressed? Am I making it up? And like I said, there are times when have you ever been inside a room and two people are just arguing and you feel that tension? It's sort of like an energy. I think that's what people have sensed from me. They could look into my eyes, they could feel something about me, and they just know.
How has that affected your productivity? You are someone who is gainfully employed.
Yes.
You have this situation or state of being that you're constantly having to grapple with and come to terms with the way you are, for instance. How does this affect your ability to be able to work and function normally?
Unfortunately, it's the anxiety aspect of it is that when you're having an attack or when you're having a moment, and I'm at my place of employment and I can't handle bless you, and it makes people go out of their norm, because then it's like basically I'm cornered. And it's not that anyone is cornering me, it's just that I'm creating this.
Yeah.
It's not even that I'm creating, it's just the amount of thoughts and things that flood in, I can't process it. And I think that, people are going to judge me this way, people are going to. And so I lash out, and that affects the way because my job requires me to interact with people a lot. So although my mother has raised me to be respectful, courteous, patient,
All these qualities.
when I'm in that state of anxiety, I lash out. I act outside of my norm, and then after that, I beat myself up because I couldn't control myself, and then I feel depressed, and then I ruminate over it.
You go through the cycle.
Yes. So, sorry.
No, go ahead.
And in terms of employment, given the opportunities that my mother has given me in terms of education and my mother and father, the depression has made it that I should have been, people say that I should have been able to have a bachelor's by now, a master's. I should have been at a better job given my intelligence, given the amount of things that people have done. But what the depression does is it cripples me in the sense that like I said, my grades would always fluctuate. But there was a period when my depression got extremely horrible, and I even in my job, like I said, it's that I couldn't even get up in the morning to really want to go to work. When I was there, the same way, anyone who would speak to me, I was extremely irritable, impatient, even the simplest of questions. And like I said, when I was like that, I would beat myself up, because I said, why should I take out why can't I find any way to better interact with people? And like I said, at that time, I wasn't able to find anyone who I felt, going back to your question, because I've been employed at this space for 5 years.
Yeah.
During that time, I wasn't able to find anyone who just gave me that sort of space that I needed. And not also that, but like I said, as a male, my experience is I wasn't ready to accept that, part of the problem is mine. All right, I needed to do the work. The therapy helped, and I'm on an antidepressant medication, imipramine. I'm also doing cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm also doing my own work, which is doing activities that help me manage the depression better. And like I said, that's the part of it that I have to work with. I have to be responsible for my thoughts, my feelings.
Your actions as well.
Yes. But
What would you say to encourage persons who are looking at you now, maybe going through some of the same things that you've experienced and are still not sure about where to reach out? Because maybe they do want the professional help, but they're not sure where to go, or maybe they want help on a social kind of level. What do you encourage them to, how do you encourage them to make that first step, and what do you encourage them to use as their first step?
Like I said, it's kind of been like a hit and miss for me. Like I said, it's been years of trying to find someone or somewhere where you could open up, and what I'd have to tell them is to just keep searching. If you don't feel comfortable with a counselor, if you don't feel comfortable with the company that you keep, because I've had periods when I've spoken with my coworkers, they're male, and the level of expressiveness, the range of the emotions when they speak, when they're comfortable, if you create the opportunity for a man to express himself, you'd be surprised to see how broad a range he can express. It's not just, yeah, dog, no. But when you're in a group, it's harder to get a man to open up and be himself and be vulnerable. And
as men, we always put up walls, right? So that when we're around our fellow guys and whatsoever, it's almost as if we're competing for who are the hardest. Like I'm not supposed to say how I feel about certain things, or I'm not supposed to show it because, I will be seen to be soft or whatever around the ballet. And you find that the older you get and the more mature you get, the more you realize that it's okay to soften up. It's okay to be yourself and say how you feel, show how you feel, as opposed to when you're younger and this false sense of bravado and machismo is what is the order of one's day.
And I think I'd also want to insert that it's, even though you use the word softening up, I don't think it's about being softer, because with the expression of any emotion, it's natural. That's human nature for us to experience the emotions that we're going through. And I think that we come within our society, especially, we teach these, whether subconsciously or unsubconsciously, we teach this kind of behavior to especially our young men. And that's the reason why we have just high levels of gang wars within our community, fighting over really, really, really insignificant things like turf and who's the hardest and who's the most brave, or who's the most manly. And I think in reality, a man who can be expressive, that is the opposite of being soft. That's being extremely displaying the qualities of being a leader and being someone who is ahead of the pack, because the pack is doing, everybody did the same thing. That's the pack. That's, to me, a cop-out. It's cowardly, it's soft, it's unattractive. How do you encourage men?
That's an individual thing, though, by the way.
It's very much an individual thing, and I think that it would be good if our society would move towards that, because who wants to be like every other sheep in the country? And that's what we're breeding. We're breeding sheep. We're breeding sheep. These men who don't have a false sense of identity of what it means to be a man and express their emotions. And I think that it, unfortunately, in your case especially, especially struggling with knowing if you're supposed to cry, or if it's wrong to cry, or how to say what I'm feeling. And it's very unfortunate, because when you're dealing with issues like depression, especially something as biologically ingrained as depression, you want to know that you have an outlet, whether it be your expression, whether it be persons you can speak to. How would you encourage the community, our society, our Belizean public right now to move away from that mentality? Speaking mostly to men, of course, because you are a man, but of course, and maybe even to women, because in a lot of instances, women breed this as well. You need to be a man, not be soft, not cry around me. Yeah. A lot of women do that as well.
I've been told that a lot of times.
Yeah.
It's like I said, men, they the benefit of this age is that a lot of things have been exposed. It's just that when we're out in public, we more express what we think is acceptable. That won't make us seem, like you said, soft or vulnerable or weak. But a lot of men know and are as expressive as me. It's just that I'm not afraid to show it.
Yeah.
And it's that I would have to encourage whichever man knows that they have this in them, that they would have to be the one to initiate it. Things normally start from simple little initiatives where you just get together, have a meal gathering, and it's normally how it starts in Belize. It seems to be in majority in church groups. But the problem what I have with church groups is that they focus too much on, it's also dismissive in a way, because they say that the answer and the solution is in just praying or changing your outlook. And I said there is an aspect of it, of depression that I see in me that is nurture, right? But it's also it's in me, it's biological. I can't, there are some days when I just get up and it's not the environment that bothers me, it's just that I don't want anyone to talk to me, I don't want to go to work, the music doesn't sound the same, the sky doesn't seem as blue. I'm speaking literally, and
because
then sometimes
it's a chemical imbalance. It goes up and down.
And like I'm saying, church groups seem here in Belize to be something that's a good place to start. But like I said, specifically focus on, it's not just the depression aspect of it, because some men, like I said, they're depressed and they drink a lot. But it's not that they have a chemical imbalance. It's just that they've been through a lot of trauma, they have a lot of issues, they feel guilty because of the many sexual escapades they have, and they're trying to fit into the group, and they're depressing their own selves because they know they're dehumanizing women, they're just they're objectifying them, and they feel horrible about it. But they won't speak to anyone about it, because then, like I said,
because society says the more women you have, the more women you have, the more,
or the more you smoke,
popular,
or the less you feel pain. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
But it's some, I don't know how that's going to start out. I really don't know. I can't say. It would have to be something where someone takes the initiative, becomes the leader. It's something like a political movement. It's like a revolution. Someone would have to, someone's. And it's something where I see that there's a women's department. And women are encouraged to be more expressive and to fight for what their rights are. But I've also thought, why isn't there a men's department?
I'm glad that you brought that up. We're running out of time, but I'm happy that you are able to mention that. I've always looked at that, and I've always wondered to myself, while we believe in and stand firmly behind women empowerment and gender equality and all of these things, it's all good, fine and dandy, as we'd say. But it seems as if though our society, and maybe to an extent our government, has totally set aside the fact that, well, men have issues too, and men would want the same equal opportunity to be able to seek assistance in terms of dealing with these issues, in terms of finding men like ourselves to be able to sit down and discuss some of the things that are bothering us, right? But there doesn't seem to be that outlet. The same way you are able to identify that women can go to the women's department and sit down with someone and express a range of issues. It's seemingly difficult for men to do that. If you don't have a friend, or you don't have someone that you're confident in enough to be able to open up to, then where do you go?
And I think that, not to sound pessimistic, but the onus is on the men. I feel like a lot of the reason why we have women's empowerment movements and women's departments is because women were always subjected to being quiet, subjected to not having a political say, subjected to whatever was defined by a male-centric society. So now, because men are realizing that women are empowered and they have these outlets, and if they feel they need these outlets, then that's where the advocacy from the males need to come in, because it can't just be, oh well, the women get one, so the men should have one too. There needs to be an advocacy movement.
Woman got one, so man have to have one. I'm saying, look, the same way how we cater to having these facilities within our broader community, it's the same way men, for instance, deal with some of these very same issues and need those facilities. When you look at someone who is an at-risk youth, for instance, you deal with these individuals, right? They don't really have anywhere to turn to once they have been exposed, they only have their male companions to hang around and talk with. And oftentimes it's a case where the blind is leading the blind. Because if we're all equally exposed, then I can't look to you for leadership, for meaningful leadership, if you're going through the same thing that I'm going through. So where do we turn to?
This is what I'm saying. The advocacy needs to start from the men who have the platform, the men who realize that there is a need. That's how the women movement came about. The women realized that there is a gap. There is something that needs to be fulfilled. So the advocacy, because we know it doesn't exist, because there is no men's department, or there's no outlet for males to express whatever they're feeling, then that's where men need to step up and advocate for and lobby the government, lobby NGOs, create a society where these outlets can be, formed and developed. And
so look, we can be here all day. This is a very interesting topic.
Yeah.
And it has my full and undivided attention. However, my brother, it's been great having you here. I admire and respect the fact that you're able to sit on the couch with us and share how you feel. I find that to be very commendable, seeing where you come from and how far you've progressed since. That is admirable, and keep it up.
Yeah, for sure. Is there any final message that you want to give to the public? Any person struggling with depression that you'd want to encourage them?
I would like to encourage them to give the therapy a try, give the medication a try. Because like I said, I'm very, very, very skeptical about medication, about medicine on a whole. But before you hit the brick wall, before you reach to the level where I reached, that it affects you in your relationship, it affects you in your education, it affects you in your workplace, to the point where I'm afraid to have children, because I know how difficult it is to manage my feelings before you reach the point where you're suicidal.
Yeah.
Okay? Talk to someone, and it's also, it needs to start in the family, because like I said, my mother was open enough and I was blessed enough that I could speak with her. I was blessed enough to find a partner who she actually took the time to research information that could have helped me, but I rejected it. That's also what took too long. But just, if someone says to you, man, I think you need to go talk to this person because I see that you're depressed. If someone is telling you it,
Don't be offended by it.
don't be offended. That person is caring for you, and they're insightful enough to know that that's what you need. So just instead of being manly in the sense of keeping things in, like you said, be a man in the sense of creating a revolution for being a man.
For sure.
Be bold enough to be vulnerable.
Thank
Be
you
open.
so much, Daniel. Thank you so much for this very insightful, very needed conversation. We're going to take a quick break and wrap up when we get back.